So much for attending my webinar. This is, as Vicki said, Spice Up Your Story Time with Pura Belpre Award and Honor Books. My name is Deborah Parrott, and I'm the Graduate Program Coordinator and Associate Professor of School Library Media in East Tennessee State University. I have over 20 years as a school librarian, and I also have experience in public libraries and other libraries. I'm a library lover, so welcome. First, let me tell you about my interest in this topic. When I was in the classroom, or actually I had already gone to the library, and this was back in the Ice Age, many years ago. This was back in the 90s. We had a Mexican child who came to our school, and this was before the days of English language resource teachers. And this was a beautiful little girl who came from Toluca, Mexico. She did not know a word of English, but my heart broke for her, because I can't imagine coming to a country, leaving all your friends, your pets, your grandparents, to start a life in a new country. And so I began working with her. And so since then, I've taken an interest in Hispanic language learners. Now, I began working with this little girl named Nora, and not to toot my own horn, we went our separate ways, but I think working with her, she must have appreciated it, because a couple of years ago she sent me a friend request on Facebook. And so that was a signal to me that we should keep up our work in reaching out to our Hispanic users and students. I am at East Tennessee State University, as I said, where we offer an online Master of Education in Educational Media and Technology. It's 100% online, and if you're wanting to reference where we are geographically, I'm about an hour and a half from the Smoky Mountains, and this is me in the upper right-hand corner, so hello everybody, and we'll go ahead and get started. Today, what I'd like for us to do at the end of the webinar is I'd like for you to be able to tell someone else what you've learned today and tell what the significance of this award is. I'd also like for you to be able to describe some specific titles and programming activities or lesson plans which honor and pay homage to the Hispanic culture and experience. We also want to be able to connect our parents and the community to these age-appropriate, quality, award-winning books that celebrate the Hispanic experience and offer diversity not only to our Hispanic English language learners, but pay homage to this beautiful culture to our English students as well. At the end of our program, we're going to have some resources, web resources as well, that I hope you'll find to be useful. Now, at this point, you may be wondering, what is the Pura Belpre Award? Some of you may already know, but this particular award was established in 1996. Originally, this award was set to be given every 2 years, but that changed in 2008, and it's been awarded every year since then. It goes to one Latino or Latina writer and illustrator whose work best portrays, affirms, and celebrates the Latino cultural experience in an outstanding work of literature for children and youth. This book is given in tandem by ALSC, which is the Association of Library Services to Children, along with Reforma, which is a national association to promote library and information services to Latinos and the Spanish-speaking. And on this slide, you see a picture of Juji Morales, who is an acclaimed author and prolific recipient of this award-winning book. But these awards have honored some of the most talented authors and illustrators in children's literature today. In fact, if I think of some of my favorite authors just in the whole canon of children's literature, many of these authors come to my mind, and they've built on the awards recipients have built on Pura Belpre's zeal and love for upholding bilingual literacy in fun and intriguing ways. Now, at this point, you may be thinking, who is Pura Belpre? Pura Belpre was the forerunner of Latino literary and bilingual library services in America. She was born in Sidra, Puerto Rico, around the turn of the century. But when she came to New York for her sister's wedding in 1920, she never left. She was the first Puerto Rican librarian to serve the New York Library. And we see Pura Belpre here with a couple of her puppets because she was an amazing puppeteer and she was a writer as well. We see on the left-hand side one of the books that she wrote, Perez and Martina, which was based on a story told by her own grandmother. But during her 60 years as a librarian, Pura Belpre made a remarkable impact among children and adolescents as a librarian, puppeteer, and writer. She has enriched the lives of countless Hispanic children in America through her work of honoring Puerto Rican literature. So we can more or less compare Pura Belpre to the matriarch of bilingual story hours and programming to children in public libraries. This is the Pura Belpre homepage that you might find on the ALA ASK website, the Association for Library Services to Children. On the left side, you'll see where you can read about the Pura Belpre Medal. You can see the committee members for that particular year, the process, and past winners. So if you wanted to go to this website, which is down here at the bottom of the screen, you can find out all of the past winners. And this is very important for us to look at some of these winners to meet the needs of our students and our community members. How many of you are public librarians? Do we have public librarians here today? School librarians? Okay. Statistical studies have shown that within our country's schools, the highest increase of numbers of any other group is the Hispanic group. These students require resources conducive to English language learning, which also honor the Hispanic culture. The Pura Belpre Award celebrates authors and illustrators whose work embodies this cultural experience. So it's imperative that we offer in our collections these stories and these Hispanic experiences, not only for readers' advisory, but for pleasure reading, story time, and related activities. So how can we arise to the needs of this growing population? We can put these books in our collection and use them for readers' advisories. Sadly, there is a deficit of Latino literature, and this presents a challenge to librarians who are in the public libraries, or teachers or school librarians who are trying to serve their Hispanic users. So we can put these books in our collections for readers' advisory and use correlating activities. Sadly, according to a 2011 study, which has been updated fairly recently, the Cooperative Children's Book Center received approximately 3,400 books, and only 52 were penned by Latino authors and or illustrators. Isn't this a tragedy? With a rise in the Latino population that's expected, the number of books published by or about Latinos is expected to decline, and this is an enormous challenge to us as we try to serve the Hispanic members of our populations. So we're going to look at some primary and elementary award winners and correlating activities that I sincerely hope will be useful to you. Before we get into the meat of the presentation, I'll issue a couple of caveats. First, I've placed many of my websites right on the slides. They may not look so neat and attractive, but the presentation will be made available to you later. So if you want to visit that link and it's broken, you can actually go back and type the link in your browser and access the link. So you won't have to worry about links getting broken. I'd also mention that we may not have time to talk about all of the websites or go through all the slides. What we'll do is I'll try to look at the time about 5 minutes until the end, and we'll take questions and answers, and all the resources will be available to you later. My contact information is on the last slide, and I'm happy to send you this slideshow, which you already have. But if you're also interested in any other presentations that I have, I'll be happy to send those to you as well. One of the classes that I teach here at ETSU is multicultural literature. So if those are some topics that interest you, feel free to contact me, and we can begin a conversation about how I might send something to you that will be useful to you. Also, I'm going to be doing my best with my Spanish. I'm not originally from Tennessee. I'm actually from Alabama, but my Spanish has a sneaking Alabama accent. So please forgive my Spanish. Mi pronunciation is muy mal. So, but I'm trying. So when we see our slideshow today, we're going to see these vibrant and lovely books that honor the Hispanic culture, and they honor the culture in ways that are celebrated in this culture through their art, through family, the love of community, dance, customs, and folk tales. And I encourage you to look at some of these books that are just absolutely enchanting. Here we see some of the 2016 winners. And for this slideshow, I've included one or two of them, but just to be honest with you, I've selected some of the books just on the basis of my personal favorites and the ones that lend themselves to correlating activities. But I will talk about the one in the upper right-hand corner for a moment, Funny Bones. Drum Dream Girl, which is by Margarita Engel. Cuba had a long-standing tradition that girls should not play the drums. Girls shouldn't be drummers, should they? No, that's not true. Girls should be whatever they want to be, shouldn't they? That's what I think. Well, long ago in Cuba, which was an island filled with music, believe it or not, no one questioned the rule that girls could not be drummers. But there was a little girl named Milo who had a different idea. She dreamed of pounding tall congas and tapping small bongo drums, but she had to keep quiet, so she practiced in secret. But then at last her dream came true, and one night everyone sang and danced and decided that both girls and boys should be free to dream and drum. So this particular book pays homage to a little girl who broke Cuba's traditional taboo of female drummers. And the illustrations for which the book is recognized are absolutely stunning. However, I don't know if you're like me, I love the message that this book sends, that children should, when they have aspirations and desires that don't hurt anyone else, they should question their government, and they should question, in a respectful way, they should question why they shouldn't be allowed to pursue their dreams. And I love the idea that this is a little girl who is actually banned from doing something, and she should not be banned from doing something that she loves that doesn't hurt anyone. So it sends a message of perseverance to our children. At the bottom of this slide, you'll see a slide that is a website link to make your own tin can drum, which I think you will find helpful with children. I think they will enjoy that. Also, we can use some of these wonderful Hispanic books for Book Fiesta, Celebrate Children's Day Book Day. And I'm going to try my Spanish again. Celebramos el Día de los Niños, el Día de los Libros. This lovely book is by prolific Hispanic author Pat Mora. It's a beautiful book that is created to raise awareness of Children's Day Book Day, which is April 30th of each year. And this book can be used in anticipation for this event. It's bilingual and it shows children enjoying of books in a variety of places, in the car, in the library, and finally at night in bed. If you are not familiar with Pat Mora, I encourage you to go to her website, and I have some listed here. She's a strong advocate for Hispanic children's literature, and I actually had the extreme pleasure of having her sit in on one of my sessions at the Tennessee Library Association. And she's a really personable author, and I encourage you to get to know her books if you are interested in Hispanic literature for children. I have some links listed on this website for you, and the one I'll talk about is the one that's emboldened because it's fun, games, and quizzes, and it features quizzes and games for kids relating to Pat's books. And there's also a website on here that's a craft that has children making book ends and bookshelves. Any of the books that we see here today could be used for Hispanic Heritage Month also, which is held on September 15th to October 15th. I'd like to draw your attention to the first website, which we have emboldened, which is Modern NAMI. That's a website that's stocked full of activities for children to use during Hispanic Heritage Month. Of course, you can use these any time of year in conjunction with Hispanic literature as you see fit, but there's a paper mache mask craft, a link that shows how to make paper fiesta flowers, even videos that you can use to allow children to dance. Some of the crafts even include how to make a rain stick from Chile or mola from Panama. This neat website has activities that features hands-on projects connected to dance, art, music, and food. The second website contains printables, and even if you don't actually want to use a printable, they contain some neat ideas that you can harvest and adapt to more hands-on projects. They're alphabetical order activities and searches. And the third website contains information on crafts, recipes, and other Hispanic holiday traditions. This one is one from Modern NAMI, which is Mexican paper flowers. And I've also listed another website that you can use to have children make their own Mexican paper flowers from First Palette. When I was in the second grade, and Vicki and I were talking, that seems like 100 years ago, but do you know I actually remember learning about Mexico? And I think the reason why I remember it is because after we learned about Mexico, we would do hands-on crafts and projects. And I remember vividly making Mexican paper flowers and bringing some home to my mom. And I think that some of these hands-on connecting crafts and activities are so important to promote literature of all diversities to our children. But I think that it really connects children to literature and to reading and makes it meaningful. One first book that I'd like to share with you received the 2015 Illustrator Award winner called Viva Frida by Juji Morales. This is a lovely book that's a biography of Hispanic artist Frida Kahlo. It was also a 2015 Caldecott Honor Book, but I cannot tell you how enchanting these images are in this book. Juji Morales actually takes polymer clay and made dolls for her illustrations, and she made the hair out of substances, and she actually used clay and yarn, and you can see just a little sneak peek in the picture on the slide. But it's just amazing to think that she actually created these dolls and took the photographs for the illustrations in this book. I also like this book, in addition to the illustrations, I like the book for its value in a beginning biography of Frida Kahlo. This is a biography that's really effective for kindergarten and first grade read alouds. And if you know Frida Kahlo, she was the wife of 20th century acclaimed artist Diego Rivera. But Frida wanted to be an artist in her own right. And of course, she was proud for her husband, but she wanted to be an artist in her own right. And so I love the message that this book sends, that apart from our husbands, our boyfriends, our fathers, our brothers, we as women can be successful, and we can know our own value in the world apart from the men in our lives. The websites that I have listed on this slide is Juji Morales' website, in addition to a teaching books website, which holds some fantastic activities for Juji Morales, including a video in which Juji talks about how she illustrates Mexican folktales. If you're not familiar with teaching books, it is a subscription service. We have it at ETSU, but you might be able to get it at your library or institution if you don't have it. It's based on the number of users you have, so it is a pay subscription service, but it's not terribly expensive. It offers video, book trailers, author videos. If you're on a really limited budget and want to visit an author, you can kind of do a video author. It offers name pronunciations, lesson plans, and correlating activities, but you can check that out later, and I hope you find it to be useful as well. This enchanting book uses phrases in English and Spanish, in addition to celebrating the Hispanic culture by honoring Viva. Frida was a lady who was plagued by some physical malady. She was actually involved in a car accident which left her body quite frail. So one way of coping with her physical maladies is through painting. And in this particular text, the illustrator says her body was frail, but her spirit was indomitable. So you might ask your students or your story circle, your story time folks, how can we practice our self-esteem through art? So we can ask our students or our users to paint themselves, maybe with a favorite pet in tow. And I say favorite pet because Frida used a lot of the flora and fauna in her paintings. As you see, she uses monkeys in this particular painting. But she painted these, which honors self, culture, and the courage to overcome life struggles and circumstances. So this book can be used to talk about bibliotherapy and how we can channel our depressions, our frustrations, and our pains into something more productive, such as art. The next book that is one of my favorites is the 2014 award winner for narrative. Excuse me, it also received an honor for illustrations. This one's entitled Pancho Rabbit and the Coyote. Now, I want to tell you a summary of the book, but be thinking as I'm talking if you can find a real-life allegory. Pancho is a young rabbit, and his family is happy, but his father, they're very poor, so his father has to go and work up north in the carrot and lettuce fields. So he does for a few harvests, and he sends money back to his family. So after a few harvests, he says that he's coming home, so his family decides to throw him a big party. They have all of his favorite foods, beans, rice, agua miel, mole, and then father doesn't show up. They wait and they wait and they wait until finally Pancho says, well, I'll go out and look for father. So he takes father's favorite foods, the rice, the beans, the agua miel, and he goes out in search of father. Well, pretty soon he meets a coyote, and the coyote, being the trickster that he is, tricks Pancho out of his food. Well, after a while, the food is gone, and guess what the coyote wants to eat? Poor little Pancho. So Pancho's thrashing about, screaming, and miraculously, it's his father, along with Senor Ram and Senor Rooster, who come to his aid and save Pancho's life. They all go back to the family and have their party. This lovely text by Duncan Tonatilla figuratively highlights the struggle of many Hispanic families who come here seeking a better life. And I'm not making a statement political one way or about immigration or not, but I am saying that so many of our Hispanic families are here in search of a better life, and those children can very readily identify with a scenario in this book. And I love Duncan Tonatilla. He's one of my very favorite authors. His illustrations are really awesome. And these are some websites and activities that you can use in conjunction with Pancho Rabbit and the Coyote. For school librarians, this book could obviously be read and analyzed as a metaphor, or even with story time in the public library for that matter. Because it is a picture book, it could be used as a model text for symbolism with older children. I'm an avid fan of using picture books with youth of many ages, but either way, it could be used as an avenue to discuss immigration issues or migrant worker students and how we all seek a better life. This first Weebly website that you see is a link to a concrete poem. A concrete poem is a poem that is written in a shape, and children could write the shape in the shape of a rabbit or coyote, but this whole Weebly website is dedicated to the book Pancho Rabbit and the Coyote, and it contains some other writing activities as well as a read aloud. The second website would be particularly useful in the school library, primary resources, because it contains exercises related to vocabulary, characterization, and plot. However, the concepts could easily be applied in the classroom or adapted to the public library as well. When the family in the book, Pancho Rabbit, is waiting for the father to come home, as I said, they were planning a party. In the book, we see them hanging papel picado to decorate the patio. Papel picado means pierced paper in Spanish. In Mexico, people create papel picado banners to celebrate holidays and different occasions like the changing of the seasons. This link, PBS Kids at the bottom, is a website that you might use to have children create their own papel picado. Making papel picado is an enjoyable way to incorporate a craft into story time with these Hispanic texts. And I'm not very good with my hands, so I tried this out, and it's really pretty easy. So it was really fun. So it would be a great extension activity either in the school or in the public library. So this is a link that you could have them make their own papel picado, which is not very difficult. The next text that I'd like to share with you is the 2011 Honor Book for Narrative, and it's Ole Flamenco by George Ancona. It's a amusing story of the flamenco, a dance that's been around for hundreds of years. It explores the expressive and beautiful art form of flamenco dancing. It's singing and it's dancing and it's guitar playing. It's expressive and exciting. It's an art form that's actually evolved over hundreds of years, and I did not actually know this until I read that book. With captivating photographs and engaging text, the author explores the origin of this beautiful dance along with the history, techniques, and performances of flamenco. The website on this slide, which is Reading is Fundamental, which you may know of this particular website, features a community activity guide, and it contains a portal for students to make their own fans and cardboard castanets. So after reading Ole Flamenco, you could have children make their own castanets or their own fans. And I've also listed a George Ancona interview, an interview with the author that you could use in conjunction with this text as well. And if you're really brave, you could have students do their own flamenco dancing. I'm not quite sure if I'd be brave enough for that, but if you're feeling particularly courageous one day, that would definitely be fun. The next book that I love is Nino Wrestles the World. Once again, we see prolific writer Gigi Morales. This book won the 2014 Illustrator Award, and Nino is a high-spirited tale about a little boy who fancies himself as the world's best luchador wrestler. It's so cute because his traditional luchador wrestling costume is composed of tidy whitey's underwear and a bright red lucha libre mask. Morales explains in the back that lucha libre is a type of professional wrestling that's very popular in Mexico and in other Spanish-speaking countries. Probably not all of them, but I don't want to stereotype. But she explains this in the back that it's really quite popular. The wrestlers are called luchadors in lucha libre, and they wear vibrant, lively, colorful masks of all types. Morales explains that luchadors wear masks sometimes in public to hide their identities, some outside the ring. Many of them are so passionate about it that they even are buried in their mask, and this was something I didn't know as well, so that was interesting. But this book is filled with fun words, and it's quite appropriate for kindergarten, first, and even second grade, that age range, because it's contained with words, pronunciation when they make the sound, bloop, spack, crunch. So it's a really fun read aloud for story time. And kids can, certainly make the sounds along with you during story time. So it's really fun. A connecting activity that you might use in connection with this text, is to have children to make their own luchador masks. We see a template on this slide, and I've listed two possible sources for you here. One is from Judy Morales' own website, and the second one is from First Palette. These are immediately downloadable and don't require that you give your email or your mother's blood type or your phone number or any other that kind of information. You can just immediately download them. Children can make their own masks as an extension of this story in the classroom, the library, school library, or public library. And you could make this as flamboyant or as simple as you choose and as your audience demands. I'm in love with this cumulative tale called The Bossy Gallito by Lucia M. Gonzalez and Lulu Delacree. It's a 1996 honor book for narrative, and we frequently see roosters in Hispanic folklore. This is a Cuban folk tale that's the story of a bossy little rooster in Havana, Cuba, on his way to his uncle's wedding, his tío Perico. This bossy little rooster gets all dressed up in his finest clothes, and on the way he sees some tasty corn sitting in the dirt, yum, on his path. So he eats it, yum, yum, and gets his beak dirty. Well, he can't go to the wedding looking like this, can he? So he asks the grass, and not very courteously, I might add, to clean his beak. The grass refuses because the rooster is so impolite and rude. So then the gallo asks goat to eat the grass since it won't help him. Well, this goes on in the cumulative fashion. In other words, gallo asks stick to hit the goat, fire to burn the stick, and water to douse the fire, until he finally, this rooster, gets the message and politely asks the sun to dry up the water. And as we all know, roosters and the sun, they have a special relationship. So the sun agrees, and then finally, so water, not wanting to be dried up, agrees to douse the fire, fire not wanting to be doused, agrees to burn the stick, and so on, until grass cleans Gallo's beak, and he's able to go to the wedding of his beloved Tío Perico. So we have this bossy little rooster who is intent on being rude and telling everybody the way things ought to be to get something done. So at last he finally says please and gets help and goes to the wedding. And I love the story because it's a text that can be used to talk about manners, such as saying please and thank you, as well as treating everybody with courtesy, and just going back to that age-old saying you can kill more flies with sugar than you can vinegar. But I love this book because of its enchanting tale, but it also includes a glossary and notes of the background of the story. It's excellent for bilingual classrooms, and it can be used as a springboard to learn about Cuba, since we are actually beginning to learn more about Cuba in our current events, aren't we? So it can be a good springboard to that end as well. Although I love this book for its lesson on manners and respect, saying please and saying thank you, it's also an excellent text to use for crafts as a follow-up to story time. These links that I have on this slide are files for file activities for the Bossy Gaito. The first one includes a sequencing activity that you might use in the school library or in the public library if you were to get crafty. But I also like the last website from WordPress, that Miss Mary's WordPress site, that includes clip art patterns to make characters for this cumulative tale. And you're only limited by your imagination there. You could use it as a felt board, or you could use the template to make popsicle sticks and let the children hold up the different characters, in the rooster in the story, or however you see fits. But it includes some cool templates. The next book that I really love and would like to share with you today is by a beloved author of mine, Kathleen Kroll, and many of you may be familiar with Wilma Unlimited. It's one of my favorite stories, and additionally, I love Harvesting Hope. This is Harvesting Hope, the story of Cesar Chavez. And the author begins the tale with a picture of Cesar's happy, family-oriented childhood in Arizona, where they owned a ranch. Cesar was about 10 years old when drought forced his family, well, along with thousands of other people, to leave Arizona and move to California to be migrant workers. And this was a new situation then for them, because they had been very prosperous in Arizona. But when they came to California, they were horrendously paid and horribly treated. Many of the workers were not given clean drinking water, rest periods, or even time to go to the bathroom. The book related a heartbreaking tale of a day in school when Cesar had to wear a sign that said, "I'm a clown, I speak Spanish," which is truly tragic to me. As an adult, Chavez, as many of you probably know, Chavez organized a nonviolent revolt, climaxing in a 300-mile protest march through California. This peaceful protest produced the first farm workers' contract and greatly improved the lives of thousands of migrant farm workers. And one of the main benefits that came out of this is it brought an awareness to the lives of farm workers. Now, one reason that I love this book, having been in the classroom myself and in school libraries, is it relates how Cesar's mother told him as a boy not to fight, to use his mind and his mouth to work out problems. I like that message. And although this award does go to the illustration for Judy Morales' illustrations, we'll also point out that the message of this book is important. This text not only showcases one of America's great Hispanic civil rights leaders, it also shows Cesar as a young boy. When Chavez was young, he was really painfully shy and was teased at school. Although his family slaved in the fields for barely enough money to survive, he made it. And this book sends a multicultural message of optimism and promise that life can indeed improve and get better. So we can use this book in our libraries to illustrate the concept of social justice, strong work ethic, a sense of family, and to talk about the injustices of bullying as well. These are some other ideas that you could use in conjunction with Kroll's Harvesting Hope text. It can be used as a springboard for so many activities. It's an excellent choice to use for discussion of positive character traits, like we said, courage, bravery, treating people fairly. And because Chavez worked for the good of his community and the community of people, we can talk to children about good citizenship and civic responsibility and civic activations. How do we become good citizens? How do we How are we proactive in terms of our fellow man and in terms of the people who are our neighbors? How do we advocate for them? To do this, you can have children maybe pick up litter, plant a mural, or any other civic project to honor Chavez on his birthday, which is March 31st. This slide also features some other websites that you might find useful in association with this book. The first website's a link to a site for children to make a felt board for this book, and the Library Sparks website that you see, the third one, is a lesson plan that could be easily adapted to a public library scenario for story time. Children talk about natural resources. Because Chavez's family were farmers, that's an excellent springboard to talk about natural resources and human resources, and to talk about a very, very primary lesson and discussion on economics and the use of resources. The Juji Morales website includes ideas that link this book to art, music, geography, and other areas of the curriculum. I hope you'll check out that website because it is chock full of really cool ideas that you can take and use. The next book is by, once again, one of my favorite authors, Pat Mora, that she did illustrated by Roald Colomb. Who loves Tall Tales? I think everybody loves Tall Tales. I know I do. I taught 5th grade, and that was in our curriculum, and I loved telling tall tales. Doña Flor, A Tall Tale About a Giant Woman with a Great Big Heart, is this 2000 honor book for narrative. This is a precious tall tale about a giant woman who sets off to protect her neighbors from what they think is an enormous puma cat. The neighbors keep hearing this vicious noise, and what is it? Doña Flor goes in search of it to find that it's not indeed a big puma cat, but it's a teeny tiny little mouse. So once again, we have the message of looking out for one's neighbors or banding together as a community to achieve goals or to keep each other safe, to look out for one another. So I love this book for that reason. I also love this book because it's interspersed with Spanish words. It's bilingual. Mora uses such words as una casa, mira, mira, which is look, look, and por favor. This could be used to talk about similar themes and topics such as good and evil, or patterns of events and stories such as myths and traditional literature from different ones. I also like this book because it can be used to talk with any setting to compare and contrast tall tales. You might use this in some particular unit or book club about, you might use Paul Bunyan in one setting and Doña Flor in another, and have children to compare and contrast the two. It's also, Doña Flor is an ideal book to use for children to write their own tall tales, either an American version or a Latino version using Latino culture. Young patrons could even write their own tall tales using a Storybird, or if you have older students, you could use Doña Flor and have an extension of them using VoiceThread. I don't know if you've used VoiceThread, and I don't think I put the link on here, but VoiceThread is a wonderful way to collaborate using your voice. And in that way, you could integrate technology into your literature activities. VoiceThread is similar to, the best way I can describe it is it's similar to a narrated PowerPoint. It's a fresh way to integrate technology into your curriculum if you're a school librarian, or it could be a special community or outreach event for public librarians as well. One of my favorite texts is the 2008 winner for narrative, Martina the Beautiful Cockroach. This is written by Carmen Agraditi, who is actually a frequent storyteller in Jonesboro, Tennessee, which is about 5 minutes down the road from where I'm sitting right now. If you've never been to the Storytelling Festival in Jonesboro and you find yourself in a position to go, you might see Carmen Agraditi there. This book is a charming retelling of a popular Cuban folktale. Abuela, who's a grandmother, tells her 21-day-old granddaughter, Martina Josefina Catalina Cucaracha, that how exactly to find a suitor. She tells her that you know the right suitor for you is if you spill hot coffee on the shoes of your suitor, you can tell by his reaction what kind of spouse he's going to make. If he gets very mad and very angry, then you know that he's not going to be a good spouse. But if he's kind and patient, then you know that that's how he will be in your marriage. So, Martina Josefina Catalina Cucaracha tries this process of spilling coffee on her suitor's shoes several times, and several of them get angry, and finally she finds her perfect mate, and she, not to give a spoiler, but we'll just say that she indeed meets her match in more ways than one. There's plenty of Spanish words sprinkled throughout this story, and it's a fun book to connect with a Cuban folk tale. Once again, we could use this book to talk about folk tales from Hispanic lands, and then talk about folk tales to connect with countries all over the world. But we can also talk about how folklore expresses our culture, because in Hispanic stories sometimes we see in folk tales we see roosters, we see insects, and we might talk to our children as to why that is. Why do we have the characters that we do in our folk tales? This is also a good text to talk about choice. I'll go ahead and tell you, many of you may have read this, but Martina Josefina Catalina Cucaracha was going to meet her last suitor when he actually spills the coffee on her shoes. So this is a lesson about, we never know what's behind what someone is thinking. They may be thinking the same thing about you, because when Martina asks, "How did you know to spill coffee on my shoes?" he replies, "Oh, I have a Cuban grandmother too." So Martina is just an absolutely darling little book, and these are some activities that you might use in connection with that book. You could have students locate Cuba on a map, and even if you so choose, use maybe your virtual library, Florida virtual library data resources, to instigate a basic search on Cuba and maybe write down some facts about Cuba. Children could also retell or write their own favorite folk tale through illustrations. Once again, you could even amplify that through technology if you wish, PowerPoint, however you wish to do that. But this slide contains some activities that you might use with Martina the Beautiful Cockroach. The website at the bottom is a helpful PDF that contains related books, discussion questions, and even an art activity to make a bug from egg cartons. And we see a small example down here. This is a little cockroach that's made out of colored egg cartons and pipe cleaners. This is maybe the last one we'll have time for as far as the book, because I do want to talk about a website with you before our time is up. But I love this book, The Storyteller's Candle. If you are in a school library or public library, this is such a terrific book to illustrate the importance of libraries. It's the winter of 1929, and it feels particularly cold to cousins Hildemar and Santiago, who have arrived in New York City, far, far away from sunny Puerto Rico only months before. Their island home feels so distant, especially with the cold outside and Three Kings Day. A magical thing then happens. There's a visitor who appears in their class. She's a gifted storyteller and a librarian, and I'm sure you can guess her name. Her name's Pura Belpre. She opens the children's eyes to the public library and its potential to be the living, breathing heart of the community. And she has an important message for everyone in the class. The library belongs to everyone, whether you speak Spanish, English, a little of both, or none of either. The library is a place for everyone. So this award-winning team of Lucia Gonzalez and Lula Delacre have crafted an homage to Pura Belpre, New York City's first Latina librarian. Through her vision and dedication, the warmth of Puerto Rico came to the island of Manhattan in a most unexpected way. And this book also won the Jane Addams Children's Book Awards. But it provides us a glimpse into Hispanic culture And these are some websites that you can use in connection with these books. One is a discussion guide from Lee and Low. And I'm going to really quickly, I start talking, and I will point out this book. This is the 2000 Illustrator Honor Book, Gracias Thanks by Pat Mora, in which a little boy gives thanks for things in his life. It's bilingual. One page is Spanish and one page is English. There's not a religious spin on it, so it's excellent to use just to give the message to children that we need to be grateful for the pleasures in our life. Focus on our blessings and the things that we have rather than the things that we don't have. Because I don't know if you're like I am. I've always heard the saying, a happy heart is a grateful heart. So we can use this book to talk about being grateful. And we have some crafts. And once again, this slideshow will be available to you. And I'm going to put my contact information up at the end. As you can tell, I was once a teacher and librarian, so I overplan. And you start talking, if I get to talking about children's literature, you cannot shut me up. But I would like to really quickly draw your attention to this particular website, which I hope you'll find to be useful. This website is called Coloring Colorado, and please forgive my bad pronunciation, but this roughly translates into "and they lived happily ever after," or the end of the story. This is an amazing website that you can use with Hispanic language learners or parents. If you'll look to the left sidebar here on the website, you have different portals for educators, administrators, for librarians, and ta-da, for families. So you could even create a brochure based on some of the resources in this website. It includes webcasts, multimedia, and all kinds of neat web resources that you can use to serve your Hispanic English language learners. This is also a website, a compilation of websites that I've put together for you, and I will call your attention to the Lee and Low website. Lee and Low are publishers who are dedicated to publishing literary works for children that emphasize children of color that they can identify with, but all children can enjoy. The second website is one for Dia, and the All Brown All Around is maintained by Celia Perez, a librarian and lover of children's books with a special interest in Latinos, in children's and YA literature. So this blog was developed specifically as a resource for librarians, educators, and parents of individuals interested in hooking books up that accurately represent the diversity and beauty of the Latino experience. So I hope you'll check some of these out, and I hope that they will indeed be useful for you. So I think we're about to come to the end of our time, and I'd like to leave some time for any questions or comments or interaction that you have. On this slide, I do have a Google handout that may contain some additional resources that may not be on the slide, and so you're welcome to contact, that's the link there, but you are welcome to contact me at Parrott, P-A-R-R-O-T-T-D as in Deborah, at etsu.edu for you know, any multicultural resources that I might help you with. So at this time, I'll open the webinar up to questions or comments. Do we have questions? Can everyone hear me? you, I'll just talk instead of type. I'm not the best typist. Thank you so much for attending. I hope this is useful. And again, I'm happy to share anything that I have with you. I have a slideshow on Batchelder literature, which is literature to connect students to literature of different lands. So feel free to contact me for that. I'll be glad to share that slideshow with you as well.